Good day, Fire Burns Within channel. Happy Sunday. 3 videos to do today. Cannibal Corpse, the first one. Then Wolf, the Swedish power metal band or classic metal band, and Firewind, the Greek and international European mix power metal band. But first, Cannibal Corpse. One underrated song per album and some honourable mentions. I'm not going to do rankings for Cannibal Corpse because I'm not like a monster Cannibal Corpse fan. I just like random songs, random albums. I just like their style sometimes, not all the time, but I had to do a fair bit of listening, especially on the early catalogue. I'm not 100% like a fan to know them off by heart, so I had to re-listen a bit. I know the mid-period and the later period quite well, so that was slightly more off experience. But anyway, they've got a lot of albums. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 albums. Cannibal Corpse. Okay, going back to the beginning. Eaten Back to Life. The song that stood out a bit for me here is Buried in the Backyard. we're gonna see some funny titles. Obviously a bit sick, a bit gory, but this is Cannibal Corpse for you. Yeah, I enjoyed that song, Buried in the Backyard. I haven't heard it for a long time. I mean, I haven't heard Eaten Back to Life for 20 years maybe. So it was quite a cool song, cool riffs, cool grooves. The other song that stood out was Edible Autopsy. I laugh at these song titles, sorry. I mean, they're grim, but they're also quite funny as well. Funny in a sick sense, of course, in a sick, horrific sense. So the next album, Butchered at Birth. The song I'm going to mention here is called Gutted. Yeah, again, it's quite a cool song. Probably not that well known. The second song to mention is the title track, Butchered at Birth, probably more well known amongst Cannibal Corpse fans, but Gutted is the first song to mention. The third album, Tomb of the Mutilated. The song that stood out here a bit for me was Split Wide Open. It was, yeah, it's a very catchy song. It's quite a riffy song. It's not always very fast. The main song from the album is Hammer Smash Face. Very catchy song. Well known, so not underrated by any means. The other song that I quite liked a bit was Addicted to Vaginal Skin. Yes. And we won't mention the other song title from this album that everyone knows. Yeah, that's Tomb of the Mutilated. And then we move on to The Bleeding, which was the original singer's last album before Corpse Grinder took over and took the mantle of lead vocalist. The Bleeding, yeah. The song that stood out here was Pulverized. I thought that's a pretty good song, pretty brutal, pretty catchy. 2 other songs which are quite good are Fucked with a Knife, which they always play live, and Stripped, Raped and Strangled, which is also one that they play live a fair bit, I think. Every time I've seen them, they've always played those 2 live. So we move on, and Vile, the first album with Corpse Grinder. The song that stood out for me on re-listening was Absolute Hatred. I think that's a pretty cool song, very heavy again, and pretty fast, brutal, intricate riffs. 2 other songs to mention, Disfigured, This figure is really catchy. It's got a great riff, great groovy riff. And Mummified in Barbed Wire is also a pretty catchy song from Vile. The next album, Corpse Grinder all the way now. What's his face? I even forget the first singer's name, would you believe? Mine's gone blank. But you know, the chap from 6 Feet Under, Chris Barnes. I can't believe I forgot his name. Chris Barnes is long gone. Vile. From Vile onwards, it's Corpse Grinder. Anyway, we're on Gallery of Suicide. This was actually the first time I ever heard Cannibal Corpse on this album. I hadn't really heard much of their stuff before, just in passing. I wasn't really a fan. But then I sort of became more of a death metal fan when Corpse Grinder took over. I was already a fan of bands like Death and Obituary a bit, and Cynic and Morbid Angel, but I wasn't so much into Cannibal Corpse for some reason. But with Gallery of Suicide, I really got into them. The song that I'm listing here as underrated is Stabbed in the Throat. It's a really like fast-paced, very intricate, almost technical death metal song. The other song that I'm going to mention is Sentenced to Burn, which was like a more groovy, more catchier song. It's not so technical, that one, just steady pounding riffs. The next album they released is Bloodthirst, and they're on a bit of a roll now. They've Corpse Grinder, he's been in the band a couple of albums, he's really hitting his stride. And the Cannibal guys, they're really hitting their stride as well. The song that I love here is Blowtorch Slaughter. I think that's a really heavy song, really groovy, very catchy, very heavy. Two other songs to mention from Bloodthirst: Coffin Feeder, another fast, brutal song, aren't they all? And Dead Human Collection, again a very catchy, fast, brutal song. Very catchy, that one as well, Dead Human Collection. Next album, Gore Obsessed. Yeah, it's very similar sounds to Bloodthirst. Just quickly continuing on. There's one song on there which I absolutely love. It's got so many catchy riffs, great grooves. It's called Compelled to Lacerate. That's a really, really cool song. I always love that one if I ever put on Gore Obsessed. Two other songs to mention: Mutation of the Cadaver. It's a catchy, brutal song, and Hatchet to the Head. Again, it's just a typical mid-period Cannibal Corpse song. I mean, it does what you'd expect. There's no surprises. Next album is The Wretched Spawn. It follows on from Gore Obsessed. It's a little bit more polished, a little bit cleaner, a little bit more technical, if you like. The song that I love is Frantic Disembowelment. It's just frenetic. I mean, Frantic Disembowelment is a perfect name for it. It's like the riffs are really fast, really technical sounding, like really like complex sounding. Really cool song. The second song to mention from that is the title track, which is a very catchy song. It's a little bit more mid-paced, a little bit groovier, but a little bit more melodic as well. I mean, sometimes Cannibal Corpse are quite unmelodic and a little bit brutal, and then other times they become a touch more melodic. They use a little bit more catchiness in the riffs. Those are the ones I tend to like most. The next album is Kill. Kill is an awesome album. Kill is in the top 3 albums for me, for Cannibal Corpse, easily. The song that stands out here is Make Them Suffer. This is just an awesome song. It's got massive riffs, great grooves, so catchy. I think they almost always play it live as well. I mean, it's got a lot of fans, that song. Two other songs to mention is, first one is Maniacal, and the second one, Necro-Sadistic Warning. Both of these are like very groovy. They're still pretty technical, very crunchy, very heavy. Kill is an awesome album. Kill is easy, like I said, one of the top 3 for me. Next album is Evisceration Plague. Yeah, this was like a slight step down from Kill. It's good, but it's just more of the same from Kill, but just not quite as good. The song that I'm gonna pick here is Skewered from Ear to Eye. It's a really cool song. It's right towards the end of the album. Very catchy, more groovier riffs. The second song to mention is To Decompose. It's a more technical, faster song, more brutal again. It's typical Cannibal Corpse, you know. You could say they're on autopilot. They've been on autopilot for a long time, but this is what they do. This is death metal. This is gory stuff. It's brutal. It's still catchy. And gradually, the production has always been getting better, and the band is getting heavier and more technical as well. The next album they released was Torture. Torture is a good album. I think after Evisceration Plague, which was an okay album, Torture I like more in line with Kill. Like, it's more along those lines again, so I like the catchy songwriting. The song that I've picked up there is Crucifier Avenged. I think that's a really catchy song. It's got great grooves, very brutal, but still very catchy as well. The other two songs to mention are Rabid, which is as the title would say, it's just a brutal song. It's like fast-paced, frantic madness. And the other song to mention is Torn Through, which is also very catchy, very fast again. Very cool. 2 albums to go in the Cannibal Corpse discography. Skeletal Domain. Yeah, this is another latter-day Cannibal Corpse album. Definitely on autopilot now. I mean, they're churning out brutal, catchy death metal, crunchy riffs, Corpse Grinders' usual vocals, very, very polished production. The song that I like here is Vector of Cruelty. I think that's a really cool song. It's very underrated, that one. And the other song is Asphyxiate to Resuscitate. That's also a faster paced song. Very catchy too. And finally, the most recent album, Red Before Black. Yeah, it's Cannibal Corpse. It does what it says on the tin. It's not gonna shock you with any kind of different sounds. This is brutal, catchy death metal. The song that I've picked here, In the Midst of Ruin, I think that's a pretty cool song, pretty underrated. And also the title Black, I can't get away from that one. Red Before Black. It's very brutal, very fast, very catchy. That's it. Cannibal Corpse. One underrated song per album. Buried in the Backyard, Gutted, Split Wide Open, Pulverized, Absolute Hatred, Stabbed in the Throat, Blowtorch Slaughter, Compelled to Lacerate, Frantic Disembowelment, Make Them Suffer, Skewered from Ear to Eye, Crucifier Avenged, Vector of Cruelty, In the Midst of Ruin. Okay, that was Cannibal Corpse, brutal death metal.